Ready or not. Ready or not. Here I come. You can't hide. Gonna find you.
Take two, back to you.
Take two. Peace. And thank you for listening. This is the second episode of Positive Ruminations. I am your host, Mia Jewel, and this is the man, the myth, the legend, Victorious, here today with me to ruminate. We're talking about how to keep it real when you're living in a simulation. This guy, if you don't know who Victorious is, are you breathing? He makes films, documentaries, music, DJs. I think you have a clothing line now.
I do clothing here and there. The fashion like every year.
Men cry.
A little bit. Yeah, see, that's what women be doing.
I
Yeah,
am a
men
woman.
cry. Yeah,
I
men
am.
cry.
We all cry. Everybody cries.
Yeah, they don't cry like this. Men don't have to cry like this. That's why men don't want to cry.
That's why you don't want to cry.
That's why men don't want to cry, because you were like, yeah, man.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I have a lot of stories about that shirt with women.
Really?
Strange women on the street, yeah.
They just stop you.
They just say like a lot of weird things. One woman, I was crossing the street. She was driving the car at stop signs. I don't want to hit you and make you cry. One woman said, "What you be crying about?" The woman said, "You a crybaby?" Just don't know what to say. Yeah, so men just like,
so they don't even want to wear the shirts.
Yeah, imagine like in the house what men go through. So a lot of dudes so much they can't cry in front of people, or they might cry in the shower. I think it's like kind of like you cry when you want to cry, but crying in the shower is like you cheating. I need to feel all my tears. Like you ain't gonna cheat me. Like
I'm not
crying to the water. Yeah, that's crazy. Crazy
Makes
work.
Sense. Yeah. So we're ruminating about keeping it real, and as an authenticity coach, I often run across people who think they're so real. I'm gonna keep it a buck, and they have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we live in a simulation? Does that make sense?
Define simulation.
There's several definitions for simulation. We have the act or process of pretending.
Mm.
We have imitation or enactment as of something anticipated or in testing. And then my favorite one is the representation of the behavior or characteristics of a system through the use of another one, especially a computer program designated for the purpose.
I mean I don't really understand a lot of them words, but the last one seemed like that I could draw that up to make that. So sound like that. I think things were all written in advance. So I mean, is that a simulation? You know what I mean? Or I don't know.
I see that.
Everything was written in advance. So we are just going through something that was already preconceived,
put together,
and we're the conception of that which was preconceived. So I don't know if that's just a simulation, because it's like maybe like for some people it's maybe moot what we do. Not to me. I'm just saying,
Right.
So I don't know. I'm gonna say I don't know. I don't know. I just. Shit.
I agree, though. I do agree. I think the word simulation, I think, is taken out of context. People have seen The Matrix umpteen million times, and so that's what they automatically lean towards when they hear simulation, which could make it difficult for them to want to agree with it. Because then you start thinking about aliens, and then you start thinking about the the architect and things of that nature, which kind of goes against the knowledge of self. Like, if I have knowledge of myself, then how could I possibly be in a simulation? How could I believe in somebody else controlling the world?
Well, yeah, Well, in the story of Elijah Muhammad wrote about Yaqub, which is found in the 120 Lessons, with Yaqub playing with two pieces of steel and taking that idea, and that idea now represents people and even the creation of a people, right? The idea is about the planning of the creation of a people, which some say in that story do exist, and that would suggest that even within the knowledge, the idea of simulation does exist in that story, because that is something that was conceived by one person 6,000 years ago.
Right.
So you can't have both. You can't say that was something that really happened with 6-year-old. So and then but it's not. So we, as I don't know,
Okay.
but I know that everything that I speak on that was written in advance by me, though.
That part.
Right? And so the science is, well, who is the me I'm talking about? Right? And so with that, in terms of keeping it like the through line with Elijah Muhammad and the lessons, also teaching about the 23 scientists, right? And then the 24th one being allowed to text over the work of all the other scientists. Then I look at the symbiosis of different things, especially numbers, and look at 23, right? So I look at it as like 23 and me, right? And so 23 and me, right? I'm talking about the DNA, but 23,
Scientists.
yeah, and then 23 in me, right? That's my chromosomes, right? And so that me that wrote everything in advance is not really far from the idea of the 23 scientists writing everything in advance, but it's not necessarily the science of them making it happen, but it's just the science of they were the best of all these different things, and they could predict it to a reasonable degree of accuracy based upon what they knew about the world and humans and science, and it would be good for about 25,000 years if the Allah that checked the work, which is me, said, yeah, that sounds about right. And so, is it a self simulation? Mm-hmm.
Is it a simulation based off of what you perceive yourself to be? I think maybe we create these constructs of our own accord because we were groomed when we were children. Our caretakers, not maliciously, but they just had these ideas about who they wanted us to be and how they wanted us to. Society does that.
I just, indeed, I do agree with you, not to quibble with words, but I'm not sure the audience is. I mean, some of people, it was maliciously. Some people were taught maliciously to be certain things.
Indeed. Noted.
So I think I was, you know what I'm saying, but not all throughout, my environment, but I definitely was taught a certain thing, and it wasn't the best that they knew. It was to make me something different, so that they could humiliate me and make me into a thing. And I became that thing, at least I thought I did.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what catapulted you into the knowledge of yourself, like wanting to be more authentic and live your life?
Well, because that thing was going to kill me at a time where I no longer wanted to die. So it's like, all right, well, I don't want to die.
So
Not at the age of 17. I don't. You know what I mean? And so with that, I was attracted. Well, first, just my mother having knowledge of herself and being a 5%, amongst the gods and earths and in the mid to late 60s, always having an attraction to the knowledge, but then just wanting to be at peace and already being totally not at peace and just having a confusing and a violent uh, upbringing experiences, culture as a culture of violence, and
Brooklyn, right?
well, just I mean, you can choose your Brooklyn. There's a lot of Brooklyn's out there. I know there's a block that I know has a lot of killers and gangsters and yada yada, and also know Jason Swaby, who's a doctor from that block. So it's kind of like not a doctor's or end all be all, but so it's kind of you could choose your Brooklyn. I chose someone else because I was told that that's who you were supposed to be. So not everybody um, either was told that or believed that or had the fortitude to go and be that. I ended up believing it, went for it, and lived it out to the best of my ability. But honestly, science is like, well, best of my ability is only going to be that much because that's not really me. There's not really anybody, so it's going to stop you short somewhere. It's all about when's going to stop short. So for me, it stopped short emotionally. And at 17, I met a brother in my class who seemed like he was twice my age, but he was not. And I said, "Oh, you a 5%er, you know?" And then he said, "5%. I'm 100%." And I was like, okay, so you God body? He said, God body. He said, how can I? He said, God doesn't have a body. And I said, you God? I'm trying to remember what my mother told me. She told me mathematics and alphabet, and that was it. I wasn't raised under that teaching.
Indeed.
So So, said, God, that's it. And I said, you can't be God, you crazy. And then he said, the God must be crazy. And I was like, oh man. And then, but what really attracted me was the word peace, because he wrote on the board a lot of numbers he was in my fashion design class, and it's something that I wanted to do was fashion design for a long time. His fashion design class, and he wrote on the board before the teacher came. He wrote, he wrote 9, 14, 8, 25, 5, 1, 18, 28, so on and so forth. You know what that spells so far? It's okay. It's okay if you don't. I mean, I'm swift. Well, I mean, swift and changeable. Keyword being swift, right? But what he ended up writing, I asked him, what is that? He says, an alphabet, look it up. And so I had to do it my own. And what it was in the earth and the heavens above. And I was like, what's that? What is that? And then, and he would always say peace and things like that. And I was just like mesmerized. At that point, I was already looking at Taoism and Buddhism, trying to find this concept of peace. And he had it, and that was it. Where we went. So that's what it was. Like, it saved my life. I wanted to live. Not one of those of like, I was great before the knowledge. I was not great before the knowledge. You know what I'm saying? I was headed. I was on a train that it could have, I won't say to nowhere, but it was going a certain direction. But it wouldn't have made that direction. I would have got derailed. Eventually. Well, I derailed. I would have derailed myself. Right. So it gave me something, and I came down here to Atlanta, and the rest is history.
Was there a pivotal moment where you began to understand that you were not who you really were, if that makes sense?
And that was not who I really was? Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
That you had been living in a simulation and you were just kind of like going through the motions and being who you were told or shown that you needed to be, but that went against your true nature.
All right. Well, so I'm not going to be witness to the word simulation. But I'll say the principle of what you're saying, though. Was there a moment? I mean, that moment is every day. I mean, it's knowledge itself. Like, knowledge, for me, knowledge itself doesn't just come one time or once a year. Like, there's always, with every time that there might be a trigger or something, every time that something that just seems like it might be something from another experience, there's constant realization or not of who I am and what is. And what is depends on who I am, right? My perspective. And so now, I mean, there's times that, well, this is not minced words. I wanted to be evil. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be evil. Like they had the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Mm-hmm. I tried to start something called Brotherhood of Evil N-Words. I tried it. It didn't work. I tried it. It didn't stick. I was like, it didn't stick. I was 13, 14, but it just started like, how could you do more? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, but it wasn't to that point where I met with that brother. I'm 17. He taught me the concept of righteousness. He told me some things weren't righteous, like don't like graffiti or whatever. But then also taught me how to recognize the weed spot. So make it make sense, right? but there's always. I'm not gonna say that none of that wasn't me, because that was me. And even though there were things that were injected into me that became me, or I was, you say, taught to eat the wrong foods, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, etc. Hey, that's me. You know what I'm saying? Like the nature versus nurture thing. At the end of the day, however I was brought to the earth to be, like, that still exists in the same timeline that I am the thing that I am, right? And you can't get to where you're going without being, who you are, and you can't be who you are without where you've been. It's just kind of like, I don't really mince that. Like, I am that, and what I will say is that there is no longer within me the appetite to live in both of those worlds. Mm-hmm. As I was sometimes taught by some elders, like, have one, we live in heaven, but we go to work in hell, and I can, what does God say? You can jump in the grave with them. We allowed we jump in the grave. We need to jump in the grave. I ain't jumping in the grave with nobody. I'll just, if just try to climb the mountaintop if you want to see me, because I'm not did that already.
I had to pull myself up by the bootstraps after acquiring knowledge of self. I took it back to Mississippi. I got it in Mississippi, but I took it out when I came here to Atlanta, fell up with the gods and earths here, and then I took it back to Mississippi, and they couldn't understand me. Erykah Badu wrote a song along the lines of like, "What good?" She said, "What good do your words do if they don't understand you?" And they didn't understand me. They didn't understand the head wraps. They didn't understand the rap skirts, and nobody liked me. So I put it all away. Put it all away. Went back to sleep for a long time, but it's so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable knowing who you are and knowing what you're here to do, and just choosing not to do it.
Oh, I can't relate. I don't know what that feel like because
it's terrible.
I was taught under the penalty of death. I don't. I mean, so yes, I understand there might be frustration there and maybe some shame, guilt there, but the idea that you're able to choose is also a beautiful thing.
Indeed.
You know what I mean?
Because here we are.
But there also is like you said, there's a terrible feeling when you're not living out who you want to be.
And you don't feel like you're allowed to, or like you can. You don't feel like it's even possible. One of my primary goals is to show people what it looks like and help them become comfortable with the idea of fully expressing who they are. So when it comes to maintaining who you are, your foundation, where you come from, and what you stand for.
Can I drink on camera?
Of course.
Right.
I can cut it out. What are...
Sorry about that, Mike.
What are some of your tactics for maintaining your peace? For
boundaries.
Boundaries.
More, I'm sorry, peace for
yourself.
Boundaries.
Period.
I
suck at boundaries.
Boundaries. Yeah, you do. But, sorry.
We learn.
Sorry. Yeah. Well, excuse me. I'm apologizing for saying that. I'm very big with sort of tactics, creating, enforcing boundaries unabashedly, whether it be things that people, places, and things that won't have access to me, will have limited access to me, and then there's things that I won't have access to myself, right? Where I won't put certain things into my head. Like I don't watch any gunfire. I don't watch no blood stuff. I don't watch no action shoot 'em up. I don't do any of that. A lot of things that I won't access. So it's like basically limiting the access to me, limiting things that I access, and that helps me. It helps me a lot maintain peace of mind. And as far as the absence of confusion, I don't have a lot of conversations. Well, period. One. Also, I don't have a lot of conversations that like it ain't about me, it ain't about dumb, gossip.
Yeah.
I just stay away from that because I don't need to. As we talked about earlier, like I don't remember a whole lot of stuff. I don't need a lot of things in my head. Indeed. I got stuff in my head that's important to me and important to the people.
And it's so much bigger than
right.
The little minutia.
Right.
Day to day. I was reading something about high vibrating people don't do small talk. It's like small talk is really difficult because like, okay, you're good, great. Then we move forward into something more pertinent, more relative to what it is that's going on, as opposed to them and they and the cars and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm high vibration. I don't know, but if you say how you doing, well then I disagree because
you don't think you have a high vibration. Which term?
In terms of high vibration people, they like, okay, you're doing fine, and let's talk about something different. I'm more so someone like will tell me how you're doing, like for real. I can stay on that.
Yeah.
Or you're not doing good. It's not like how you doing. Oh well, okay, yeah. So this is why I called. Like, nah, I will stay on how you doing because for me that is an important thing. Everything else is temporary. You may done blow your brains out. You know what I'm saying? Or someone else if you don't get that off. So I might not disagree, but I took that impetus to kind of maybe express something different that I thought about when you said.
Yeah. That does make a lot of sense.
That's higher vibration, though, I guess.
It is. thinking that what makes it not small talk is that it is in depth.
Right. That thing. So it's no small talk, only small people.
So boundaries.
All that I said, I felt like that was the bar. That was the bar right there. And I didn't make it up. I didn't make it up.
I'll run it back.
I love when I say things that I didn't make up that I've heard before, but I know what it means.
And then you can use it
eloquently. Right. Yeah. Like that was very eloquent. Woo! Very eloquent. Yeah. Woo was the eloquent part. That's word. What else we got? Having a little bit of fun here.
Yeah. No, that's about it. You
what?
mentioned.
I can say where I was from. None. Did I say where I was from? I'm from Brooklyn, East Flatbush, Brooklyn, New York. Yes, you said that. East Flatbush, Brooklyn. No, this is just so Bed-Stuy Sluggers. That's a youth organization that has a large sports component to it. And I used to coach the Bed-Stuy Sluggers, and I used to also be commissioner of the league. So this is the shirt they did for Jackie Robinson Day this couple weeks ago.
Shameless plug, Jackie Robinson.
Well, I did a documentary about Jackie Robinson, television. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
It's called Jackie Robinson Get to the Bag, and I was able to feature actually about 4 of the youth that we have in the organization. It's about Jackie Robinson after baseball. And about,
I learned a lot from that documentary. I thought I knew who Jackie Robinson was, but I had no clue.
Yeah, none of us did. That's by design.
And that was the whole point of the documentary. You do really well at capturing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that. And the soundtrack?
Soundtrack, oh, you mean like the rapping and all that, right? The rapping was done by Sky Zoo, a friend of mine who's down here now. Good rapper, so he was rapping in the persona of Jackie Robinson.
From his perspective. Okay.
Yeah, so it was good.
That made it very lively.
And but the actual score though was done by a couple of people who they did the theme song for Sons of Anarchy. So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
So primary boundaries is pretty much, I would say, instrumental in keeping yourself.
I would be remiss if I didn't complete that thought. No, let me complete the thought. It's also an important tactic, not just to say what you limit, but also what I receive and what I bring into myself. That's part of the boundaries too, right? So borders sometimes we do and I do think about what I'm keeping out and keeping away, but it also is a science to know what I should be bringing in. I just want to put that in. Yeah,
definitely. That's one of the tenets of knowledge of self for me, is not only knowing what I don't need to engage in, but knowing how I do need to conduct myself and what I do need to, like you said, bring in and consume in order to keep myself where I want to be, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So it's possible. We're real. I'm real.
Yeah, everything is real.
Is it?
Yeah, everything is real.
Everything is real.
That's what I've been taught. That's what I teach. Everything is real. I don't know anything that I can think of that's not real. Can you? Think of something that's not real?
Are emotions really real?
Are emotions real?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
I mean.
They're transient, but they're real. They're not permanent.
That makes sense.
But they are real.
So maybe I'm confusing.
I don't know
permanence. I'm just ruminating.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'm just confusing permanence with being real.
Our thoughts are real, right? Surely you think are thoughts real to you? Or what is real to you? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
what is real? What's real?
Thoughts are real.
All right, so then I see emotions are based upon your thoughts. If you change your emotions, it's based upon you able to change your thoughts about certain things, or you can just like let them run their course.
And that's what. So no, you could let your thoughts control or make you act out of character. Like you could let your thoughts control you as opposed to you controlling your thoughts. That's what I was saying about emotions. Like people will take grief or anger to a whole nother level, but it's like the grief and the anger is just an emotion. Like you said, it's transient. It's gonna go away, but before it can even leave, they've already killed it or made a mess of things.
Yeah. I mean, I see how you're saying it. I see it a different way, but I see how you see it. Yeah. But I was just taught everything is real. Because everything within the mind.
I've been listening to some of these new age people, So I've started
like
looking.
Christians.
No.
Well, that's new age to me. That's how long?
Really?
Old? Yeah, I mean that's.
You ever heard of Neville Goddard?
Yeah, I've seen that name before.
New Age. That's that. They call it mysticism.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's old age, ain't it?
It was old.
Oh, yeah.
They still call it new.
It's new to these people.
True.
That's the teachings. So yeah, I understand the. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. What they say, but no, like it's if it exists for me, what I teach, what I've been taught, and what I understand to be true. But if this is in my mind, it is real. I might not even be able to witness the physical manifestation of it, but that's because that's a very human centric idea of the universe. Whereas that we humans are the bee's knees, and our planet is the planet to be. It's the place to be. Saying and all the animals and trees and everything need to lay down to us as we destroy it. And if we don't see it, it don't exist. If you and I don't see it, it don't exist, right? Not I don't care if he saw it, we don't see it, it don't exist, right? And so I think that we don't give enough credence to the mind. We give a lot of credence to the physical. And I know my mind is powerful. I'm able to manifest things because what they say, if you can see it, you can achieve it. Yeah, so it's already real. There's a determined idea, right? Wisdom culture degree for those who understand. There's a signs of you being able to create something in your mind. Again, with the Yakub gentleman, as a boy, he had a certain idea that was real. It wasn't real until it happened. It was real at the beginning because the understanding is that the life doesn't begin when you can see the thing. There are so many other senses, and there's so many stages of consciousness. I was told there's 5 of the stages of consciousness, and so who are we to say that what exists in the subconscious isn't real until it becomes conscious? Yeah, and I'm a hypnotist, right? And so I also understand the science of conscious and subconscious thoughts. You know what I mean? So yes, you are correct. But then on a different level, it's something maybe more to think about because there's a way we have to think in order to exist on the earth and just be in society and everything. But we're having a different conversation that you spoke about higher vibrations. Then yeah, everything is real, and people need to be careful about what they be thinking.
True. I've had to, yes,
or saying.
Definitely.
Asking for, right. Asking for things that you really don't want or don't know that you want it. And not, and you not know who you've been asking it from. I might not want it from you though. Yeah, you be in a spot and you can ask the wrong person to buy you a drink. You out here knocked out. Right. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, but yes. So yes, again, yes, nothing is real. But on essence, this might be least of the real part, right? Because this is not the forever part, right? This is the finite part. So if emotions are tied to the physical, as we know, they are, right? Most of us, when you feel like this a joy, you might have a smile or a grin or something like that, or it's all in there. And the science is that this thing that you would say is real, right? This ain't going to be there. This is more transient than happiness.
Ending as it begins.
Right. So how I get to be real, but everything else is why? Because I might not be able to see it, witness it. That's just so egocentric of us. And so once we understand that everything is real, nobody's fake, nothing's fake. Even if people pretend, I know this is part of the fucking show, but you got me here. Okay.
That's why.
So people who I had and I like to end on this. I have to catch this plane. I had a homie, and the homie. We didn't like him. A lot of us didn't like him. He had a nickname that was based upon just not liking him type of thing. We kept him coming around type of thing. Because you could tell he really wanted to just trying real hard to be down. Just like trying real hard. And at this point, we in the 30s. He might be in his early 20s, something like that. Maybe not late 20s. Same age group or not, but we grown. It's like, dog, you trying to be with this. It's like you wasn't this back then. We don't think you this now. So like, why are you trying to impress us? We see through that. You could whatever, right? Then he got married, right? And so he got married, and we did a ride out where you have cars, you put people's names on the back of the thing, the windshield. I mean the back chill with the shoe polish, blah blah, whatever. And went to the family's house. End of the day, he was one of us. Like he was on the team, whatever. He wasn't on the team, but whatever. Respect. But some cats start putting him like it's like damn. But y'all everybody in history though, because a lot of people didn't really fuck with him, right?
It wasn't even like
right,
that.
right. But then his family was like, oh, he talked about y'all all the time, and he loved y'all, and da da da. Are you the one that does? Like, damn, he just wanted to be fucking down. What's fake about that? Because he wanted to be loved, and he didn't know how to just be, and he didn't know how to whatever, and he just wanted to be loved. That's not fake. That's one. It's America, and then two, it's just being in this body. You know what I mean? And what we were calling fake or trying to be down, that was authentically him. And if someone is trying to be someone else in order to get a certain thing or reward or community, whatever, that is who they are. They are some. You don't call a chameleon fake because it can change to the. Is that fake? Is a chameleon a fake animal? Nah, it might be the realest one. I don't know, right? I don't do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't recall ever doing that. Since kid, I don't recall ever doing that. Being hey, I'm not special. I just don't recall doing it. I was someone. I just man, I'm just gonna be away from y'all. Yeah. You don't want me here? I'll be over here then. Yeah. You know what I mean? I never try. You know what I mean? Except for that moment where I was taught this is what black boys do. I said, all right, I'm gonna do that. But I felt that was me coming to myself. However, none of it is fake. We were being fake. If it's a fake because we were not accepting the love. We saw, he's trying to get down. He wants to be accepted. He wants to love us. He wants to be down with us. Right. That's crazy. That's fake. You know what I'm saying? We noticed the love that he wanted to whatever, but we didn't want to give him because we knew that he was trying. He was trying hard to love us.
What didn't you like about him? That?
No, he was cool.
He was cool.
He was trying too hard.
That does tend to turn people.
It does.
Away.
It does, but that don't make you more real than them. That's just who they are. It's like the signs of attachment styles, right? Ain't nobody good, ain't nobody bad. This is who the person is. And once we start really just honoring who people are for real, right? Like, who are you? I'm somebody that tries hard. And maybe you can explore that, and maybe you can figure out, okay, well, why do you try hard? And is there a way for you to try less and maybe attract people who like you for you, whatever?
Maybe switch your circles.
Yeah, there ain't no fake. There's now people who lie. It's different. There's liars out there. Yeah. People who lie, deceive, and manipulate. That exists. Yes. Right. But that is who they are. That's their truth.
I think you said you had to go.
I do have to go.
We wrap it up.
Cool.
I would just say that
the time. Oh my God. Perfect. That's perfect.
I would just say that that acceptance of others has to start with self. Yes. I think the more you accept yourself and learn yourself, the easier it is for you to accept other people being authentically them.
I agree.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Peace.